we don't do a lot of these interviews. We're going to be doing some, but when we do it, we're really focusing on people who are running for Congress, running to change Congress, who really bring something radically different to the table in terms of policy, energy, ideas. Kaniela Ng, Shahid Buttar, as an example. And tonight, I'm really excited to welcome Mckayla Wilkes. She's running in the 5th District of Maryland. She's challenging Steny Hoyer. Now, honestly, if you told me a kind of mediocre person was challenging Steny Hoyer, I would support them. But in Makayla, this is a great candidate. So I'm really excited and I'm honored to have you, Mckayla Wilkes. Thanks for being on with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Makayla, we might play a little bit of your opening ad. But before we do that, what inspired you to take this plunge to run for Congress? Why are you challenging Steny Hoyer? Where are you coming from?
Well, because we need representation that's more beholden to our interests rather than corporate interests, which, quite frankly, I feel like we've been getting for the past almost 40 years. There are people in my community, myself included, that feel that we're forgotten in the conversations that are being had in Congress. We're forgotten when the people that we elect, the people that we trust, does not support legislation that would benefit us. They'd rather support legislation that would benefit the ones who contributes large amounts of money to them, which are usually corporate donors. And that's just unacceptable. You know, we elect these people. We trust these people. These are people that we voted for. And even if we didn't vote for them, these are people that the community has voted for. And any representative or any person that's in the Senate or any elected position that people have appointed, that have selected them to be in, when they forget about our interests, their time is up. And it just so happens to be that time for Steny Hoyer.
I love that. Let's play a little bit of this ad. This is one of the most honest, direct political communications I've seen. Let's just play about 30, 40 seconds of it, and then maybe I'll throw back to you to elaborate on it. But I want to play a little bit of this. This is a very powerful ad that you put out to announce your candidacy.
I didn't think that I would be where I am today. Chances are that I should be unemployed, in jail, or probably even worse. I'm running for Congress for Maryland's 5th District, but getting here has definitely not been easy. When I was 15, I was placed in juvenile detention facilities for running away from home. There was even one instance where a guard threatened to hold me down and cut my braids out if I didn't cut them out myself. I was even jailed for driving on a suspended license. I was 7 months pregnant, living paycheck to paycheck. I couldn't afford to pay all my tickets and court fees, and I had no choice but to drive or I'd lose my job. We need a criminal justice system that offers rehabilitation instead of exploitation. This is why I want to end cash bail. I want to end the failed war on drugs, and I want to...
Talk about your experience, how that leads to ending the war on drugs, rehabilitate, everything you outlined there. You put it all on the table.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about criminal justice reform and we see how things are essentially criminalized, poverty, substance abuse, mental health issues, things that we should be offering people rehabilitation for. We should take a more realistic approach towards it. And simply putting someone in prison or locking someone up for as simple as possession of marijuana, or, I mean, even possession of heroin or crack or cocaine. You know, if you've been incarcerated 5 times for the same thing, clearly prison is not working for you. You need treatment. And that is the kind of criminal justice system we need to have. And my experience has showed me that. My experience alone, being incarcerated for the inability to pay for traffic violations, just showed me how low we've come with our criminal justice system, and how, in fact, I know a lot of the times I say that it's broken, but it's actually fixed because it's working the exact way that it's intended to for the exact people that it's working for at this current moment in time.
Absolutely.
And even just women being there that were stuck because they couldn't afford, $100 or $150 of bail money, which is not a lot to some people. But it was just devastating because it's like you have to call someone to bail you out, and you can't even call anyone because the phones, they cost.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's something that we need to change. I mean, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's obscene. Can you take us more into that? I really want people to understand, and I think there was some reporting that was highlighted in the context of understanding the uprising in Ferguson that focused on basically how, like, yeah, let's use the black part of town as a cash cow for, in fact, the wealthier parts of town by making just like living a finable offense. But that's a national thing. So can you talk about, you know, and again, there's levels of extreme, but I remember one time getting driven to school. You know, my dad couldn't pay a fine, got pulled over. All of a sudden, instead of that, the car is being towed, right? Now, you know, we were taken back home. It wasn't such a big deal, but it sucks. And this is a huge, I mean, you know, maybe talk about, if you can, your own experience a little bit more, but also just like how far ranging, you know, things even before we get to bail, like people, you know, getting caught up for essentially not being able to pay fines and being fined for things they shouldn't be fined for to begin with, frankly.
Yeah. So, you know, in my experience, the entire thing was very dehumanizing, to say the least. Just from being an average person, you know, things happen. You know, you get pulled over, you get tickets, you can't pay them, your license is suspended. Oh, well, you go to jail. And for me, just having that whole experience was devastating. You know, I was asked by the judge, you know, why were you driving? And me being the honest person that I am, I explained to the judge, yes, you know, I was wrong. I, you know, told him I have to get to work. I was pregnant at the time. Right. I had a son already. And I was just like, you know, I have to go to work. I have a child on the way. I have a home. Like, I can't just not drive. And he wasn't empathetic at all. He gave me an ultimatum: either you pay $1,000 in fines or 13 points on your license, which is a revocation of your license, which is, I don't, that part. But and I was told that I could either have that option or the option to do 2 nights in jail. Now, remember, I just told him that I couldn't even afford to pay the tickets. And you say, we'll pay $1,000. He knew where it was going to go. And we're missing that personal connection when it comes to criminal justice reform. I mean, everything is about money. Everything is so systemic and oppressive to certain people. And that is what I've learned in my experience going through this.
And Steny Hoyer has been a voice for the criminalization of everything, correct?
Correct.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.